In this lab, we are gonna copy data from Azure Storage Blob to Azure SQL. To complete this lab, we need to have a pipeline created, a source storage blob, basically a source data set, which will have source storage blob, and the source data schema, which will be the CSV file. Then we need the target data set, which will have target storage as a SQL database, and the target schema will be table. Then we will create a pipeline to perform the copy activity. To start with, let's validate our resource access. Let's access the home, or let's access the resources. The very first thing we need to validate whether we have a storage data set or not. For this, let's access the storage account. Under storage account, let's check the blob container. We will be using the source blob. In this source blob, let's add the source data schema, the file that we will use to copy from Azure Blob to SQL database. Let's use this file, upload. This is the file that we are going to use. So we have validated, we have a storage blob source and the CSV file to create a source dataset. Let's validate whether our SQL database is there or not. Going to the SQL database, this is the instance we have. In this instance, let's access the query editor. We may need to create a schema there. Let's enter the credential to access the SQL server. These credentials were the one that we used to while creating the SQL server and the SQL database instance. In this table, we are gonna create a table. So let me copy that. So these are the sample tables. Here we will create this. Let's run. And this says query succeeded, affected row 0. Let's refresh and let's see if there is any change. We have this employee table created. It was not there earlier. These are the 4 columns of this employee table. So now we have the target database. We have the source database. Let's create a pipeline to copy the data. In order to create a pipeline, we need to access the Azure Data Factory. So let's go back to the home. Once we are at home, let's access the Data Factory. So we can do a global search for data factories, Data Factory demo, launch Studio. It will open the Data Factory in another tab. Go to the author mode, create a new pipeline. Here we are going to again do the copy of the data from the Azure Blob Storage to Azure SQL Database. We will use copy data, drag it to the main chartboard. Select the name or give a name to this pipeline. This is from Blob to SQL copy pipeline. Select the source. We're creating a new service. The source is the blob storage. In that blob storage, the type of the file is CSV. Continue. Name this. So here we are setting the properties for the source dataset. You see, source dataset pipeline 2. Create a linked service. We can use the existing link service as well, but we'll create a new. Enable, apply. Both these source and targets are on cloud, are on Azure. So we are using auto resolve integration runtime. Use the subscription, free subscription. Storage account is storage account demo. And once this is added or once this is enabled, we will check for the connectivity. We're waiting for this to complete. So this completed here, and let's test connection. We can still use the old source as well. So let's wait for it and we will switch back to the old one. So we could have used this, or let's cancel and discard changes, and let's select Azure Blob Storage 1. So this already had a connection, and let's select which file you want to use. We want to use the source container, and in that container we have this file demo CSV, and say OK. So let's wait for it to complete. Source dataset is created. It has the source storage blob selected, and it has the source data schema selected, which is the CSV file. And then there is a integration runtime as well that is created. Now we are going to the target or the sink. Here we will create again new, because none of this will work for us. So we will create a new data set. Now this is not a blob storage. We are copying data from Azure Blob to Azure SQL. The source was Azure Blob, but the target is SQL. So we will either check from here Azure SQL, or we can search here. So we are going to use SQL database. Continue. In this SQL database, we are going to create a linked service. Okay. Azure free subscription. And for this server name is there. And database SQL DB demo. That is the one that we created. And SQL authentication. So these are the credentials. Test connectivity, so that we get to know if there is any challenge. We will get to see the error here itself. Connection is successful, and we can create this. Okay. Now select the table where you're gonna copy the data. So the practical is to copy the CSV data from Azure Blob to Azure SQL. We have the CSV file already there in the storage, in the blob storage. Now we need to have that data copied to somewhere in the SQL database. But where? The table is already there. We just need to pull the data. So select the table, dbo.employee. It was the schema that we created, and this is our target location where we are gonna copy this. So we selected the target location, that is the SQL database, target schema, this is the table name, and the linked service for that. Say OK. So this is enough to, like these three components are enough to create the pipeline. We have selected what kind of activity we are doing in this pipeline, what is our source, what is our target. We have no option to preview the target, but we can preview the source. So let's say preview data. This will also help us eliminate one more uh, stage of error. If there is any error or challenge in the data, it will be visible here itself. So we are able to see the data. That means data is good till this stage. Okay. So now we have created this. Let's do validate all. Your factory has been validated. No errors were found. Click close on this. Let's do publish all. So we are publishing this. New pipeline that is being created, and there are two data sets. One is the source data set, other is the target data set. So three components are there. Let's say publish. So it has sent the notification publishing complete, successfully published. So add trigger, trigger now. Let's run this now. Trigger pipeline now using the last published configuration. Say OK. And let's go to the monitoring, and there we can see this. It will get published here. So this was the one which we triggered long ago, like during our day for the other lab. And this is the one that we are executing now. We can click this refresh button to refresh the view. It might take a minute or more to finish this. So let's refresh. As I was expecting, this will fail because the headings are different for both the sheets. So let's see. It says error code, column, employee name doesn't exist. Okay. So let's go and check this. So how to fix this error? First, we need to go back to the author mode, access the pipeline. So this is the pipeline. Select this, select the mapping. Type conversion settings. Just below that, we have this import schemas. So let's click import schemas, and let's see what's the difference, or let's compare the two tables. One on the source, other on the target. Employee name, job profile, job description, social security, social code, technician code. So it's done. It's already matching. Let's see. We have not changed anything. Let's see. Publish. Let's go back to the deploying changes to the factory. So publishing is complete. Let's again add trigger now. Okay, go to monitor and let's refresh. Running. Let's wait for this again. We might need to troubleshoot again if it throws an error again. So let's see. In progress. Previous execution failed after 1 minute and 19 seconds. This one is still running. 1 minute and 52 seconds. So finger crossed, it should succeed. It succeeded. So this succeeded successfully. And let's validate this. So what we actually have done here, we had the data in the Azure Blob Storage, and we moved that data, or we copied that data actually, to Azure SQL Database. The data in Azure Blob was in CSV format, and we copied that data to Azure SQL using the Azure Data Factory pipeline. So let's validate whether the SQL database has received the data or not. So let's go to Azure and let's go to Home and access the SQL database instance, query editor. It will prompt for username and a password. And here we go. Now under tables, we have employee. So let's run query select asterisk from employee. Run. Here it is. If I may scroll down. So this data was not there earlier. Query succeeded and the data has been copied to the SQL database instance. So this is, we have successfully completed the copy data. Thank you everyone. Have a great day.